You must be thrilled. Are you so excited? I'm so happy for you. Friends, coworkers, and strangers wearing nothing more than a towel in the gym locker room alike were effervescent in their enthusiasm over the impending arrival of my firstborn. I would nod and smile to indicate, oh yes, I'm just as excited as you think I'm supposed to be. And what was not to be happy about? It's not like we hadn't planned it. I had been planning it since about our 5th date, at which point I felt compelled to tell my husband, if this gets serious, we would need to raise our children Jewish. I hope that's not a deal breaker. I felt we had a real connection, and I did not have any time to waste. I was 29 and not getting younger. He was a 5th-generation Coloradan, a WASP, who had never actually known a Jewish person in his life. A year later, we were engaged. As we took a walk on one of the first warmish days of spring, we were discussing the details, I was discussing the details of our wedding, while he patiently listened, and the conversation veered from the wedding to marriage itself. You want kids, right? He asked. I liked the idea of a family in the abstract, but now that the details were coming into sharper focus, Dan would be the father, we would live in a smallish house, the only kind we could afford in Boulder. I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a mother. I liked our long Saturday bike rides, our lazy Sundays, eating cereal for dinner if we wanted to. Kids, the ones Dan had actually agreed to raise Jewish, would change all that. He made it clear that my not wanting kids would be a deal breaker. So I called my trusted advisors with my burning question. How does one determine whether to have kids? My sister said, of course I didn't know if I wanted kids. At this point, I was still living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment. She said that surely once Dan and I moved in together, it would be easier to imagine having kids with him. My sister, however, had no children herself. My best friend assured me that the love you feel for your child is like the love you feel for your partner in the honeymoon stage of the relationship, times 10. My best friend also suffered excruciating pain with breastfeeding, postpartum depression, and the end of her marriage by the time her son was 2 years old. My mother seemed not to even understand the question. How can you not know? I always knew I wanted children. I was envious of her certainty about her life's path, but her input only made me more confused. Shortly, I received a call from my dad. I hear you have some reservations about having kids. Don't be scared, honey. I know he meant well, but I questioned his credibility. Because it was the mothers, not the fathers, who had me terrified of parenthood. It was 2009, and mommy bloggers were making headlines. Intrigued, I added a few mom blogs to my bookmarks. My voyeuristic curiosity quickly morphed into borderline addiction. Like a blog-reading zombie, I mindlessly clicked on one horrific tale after another. I read about a toddler who vandalized the brand new stainless steel appliances with a Sharpie. A mom's confession that one of her kids really annoyed her. And countless burnt-out moms' fantasies of going to the supermarket alone. Which is pretty awesome. And perhaps most terrifying of all, the fear of failure as a mother that had permeated nearly every single blog post. Mommy blogs were more compelling than any Stephen King novel, and every bit as scary. We discovered I was pregnant at a bed and breakfast in California, where Dan and I marked our 1-year anniversary. Over dinner, we toasted to our good fortune, he with a craft beer, I with an overpriced mocktail. At the restaurant, I cried. Twice. I worried that the beginning of this pregnancy marked the end of us, or worse, the end of me. Upon the appearance of the blue positive sign, I felt joy and relief, tinged with despair. I remember tossing the test in the trash can, lacing up my running shoes, and thinking, there goes breaking 47 minutes in the 10K this summer. What other goals would I have to put on hold to accommodate this new life? Normally a sound sleeper, I struggled with nightmares and insomnia throughout that pregnancy. When my daughter was finally born, I held her body slick with mucus in my arms and fell in love. That first week, I watched in awe as she fell fast asleep, on my husband's chest. My sister had been right. Just because I couldn't imagine us as a family didn't mean that we weren't meant to be a family. And eventually I got back to running. At first, just 2 or 3 miles. After those 30-minute jaunts, I'd return home, already missing my baby. My best friend was right. You love your baby with an unimaginable ferocity. And I remember nursing my daughter when she was just a few days old while my mom sat by my bed. From her chair, she offered nursing tips and kept me company. I asked her, do you love me as much as I love her? My mom looked at me with a knowing smile and said, what do you think? I realize now that if she ever had doubts about becoming a mother, they were long forgotten, 3 children and 3 grandchildren later. So now I find myself exclaiming joyously over other women's pregnancies, particularly first pregnancies, with the same enthusiasm that, when directed at me, evoked anxiety and dread just 2 years ago. And while I can't speak for everyone else, not my friends, not my coworkers, and certainly not the half-dressed strangers in the gym locker room, when I see a pregnant woman, I feel like the universe is about to share an incredible, amazing secret with her. The sight of a pregnant woman conjures my joyful recollection of meeting my baby for the first time, the pride of creating a family with the man I love, and of course, the ecstasy that comes with being able to go for over an hour without having to pee. Thanks.